Thank you, guys. And once again, thank you, Paul, Shannon, Jaisal. I know, Shannon, you're somewhere out there. Thank you for coming and doing what you did last night and even today, being part of the worship team. Appreciate it. It was really good. You know, when it's really good is when you feel the presence of God continuing to move. If you were here last night, you saw there are some of our young people who are just sitting out here, just being themselves, just in the awe moment with God. Because when you're in that place, you really have nothing to be ashamed of. You know, God gives you the strength. His presence continues to move with you. And if that awe moves away from you, then, I can't even remember anything. It's crazy. It's just like something just was swept under your feet. Because without that awesome presence of God in your life, in our life, words just don't mean anything. Songs do not mean anything. Our prayers do not mean anything. And whatever we try to say through our mouth just comes through as empty words. And I'm praying this morning that God would stir first my heart and your heart, because He has been stirring my heart. And I pray that you would feel His presence. So, before any of that, I just wanted to do a small activity, just to lighten it up a lot. I see you guys are a little somber over there, just to light. We were just talking about happiness, joy, right? So, yeah, just a little activity. You ready over there? So just take a few seconds, and right now, I just want you to think of the worst thing that you've done in your life. And now I want you to turn around to each other and just say what that worst thing was. I'm just kidding, guys. Don't do it. Just kidding.
I was going to come and tell you.
Pastor, I have a lot. Just kidding, guys. Just to lighten you up over there. Hope it worked. I know, right? A lot of things, right? Yeah. And let me tell you, just to continue on that, if at all you guys had to share those things, and if, say, you had a person next to you who just said, man, I got something. I want to share this. I got a few things. You want to hear it? And the guy says, I was caught in the act of adultery with my friend's wife. And just to cover that up, I killed a guy. And then my parenting skills are not the best. One of my kids violated his sister. And worst of all, my other son killed that guy. And my leadership skills, you want to hear more? Is not that best either. Because I was so proud and arrogant, under my watch, I let 70,000 of my own people to die. I know you guys have gone just back to where you were. Now imagine if that guy was sitting right next to you. I'm sure you'll keep a distance, right? You're not going to turn around and give him a hug. You'll keep a safe distance, right? Worst comes worst. I'm sure you're not going to name your kid after him. Right? But you see, the Word of God, the Bible, our God is so awesome. He starts the Gospels, the book of Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew starts, this is the genealogy of Jesus Christ, son of David, son of Abraham. David. We stay in those stories, and the thing is, we stay in those stories and we stay stuck in those stories, and we do not move on. And that's where we do not get to those awestruck moments in our lives. Because we look at David and know he was not even in the match to be selected. He was not. He was picked. He was used. God did what he had to do. And we know how he turned around his life, but we know the immense grace that was upon his life. So much that the guy just couldn't stay awake at night. I mean, he couldn't sleep at night. And when he's awake, he's constantly thinking about it. That's why he says, tremble in awe. Do not sin when you're in bed. Consider the awesomeness of God, who he is. Be awestruck by his mercy. I just want you to turn your attention to, we'll lighten up a little bit. Turn your attention to Proverbs chapter 16, verse 6. It says, I'm at the kindness of Hannah over there. She's going to cruise this. By loving kindness and truth, iniquity is atoned for. And by the fear of the Lord, one keeps away from evil. And some versions have it, mercy and justice. Loving kindness. And the Bible I have, it says faithful love. By loving kindness and truth, iniquity is atoned for. We know that. We've been in this place. We all have been in this place. We wouldn't be here without this. But there's another side to it that we need to think really, really a little bit more. And that is the fear of God. The fear of God, by the fear of God, one keeps away from evil. So what motivates you? What motivates me to stay awestruck? And as soon as we use words like fear of God, because I know as a kid I was born into a family that always reminded me. Yesterday I was reminded by my mom, and we are using those words. It's almost like, God, I'm so scared to come near you. Yes, you got to be scared because he is the one who is in charge of your life here and thereafter. Hereafter. Not the one that can take your life in this life, but beyond this life, yes. But to a place where that fearfulness comes out of awesomeness of God, out of what you've received. Every time in the Word, if there are places that talk about the kindness and faithful love of God, there's also a place that we read about fear God. Be in awe of Him. Know who He is. I'm very aware of copyright laws and patent laws in this country, right? Because we didn't believe quite that back where from, India. There's all kinds of things everybody does. A drug is discovered here within I don't know how many minutes. The same thing is available in the pharmacies over there. A picture is here, and very soon the picture that you took will be on the billboards because it's like common property. But here there's a lot of respect for copyright laws, patent laws that hold somebody's creation. Let's think for a minute. If we hold on to those copyright laws about the things we create, what are we? We are made in the image of God. We're made in the image of God. The imago Deo, the image of God. What right do we have to destroy this temple? I know in the public discourses these days, you hear all kinds of comments, right? You hear this and that, and you see a left, right, all kinds of things, political things that, you have people who want to build something, you want to destroy something, like, well, this, that. But let me tell you as Christians, whatever we do, let's not destroy the temple of God by futile talks, useless things that come out of our mouth, and places that we shouldn't be. Because that is not what this is made for. That is not what this is made for. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that I have not, and let me tell you, I've been in these places too. Very quick to make a comment without thinking, am I destroying the temple of God, another person who's created in the image of God? We just quickly make a comment about somebody else, pass judgments on somebody else without even knowing that person. And God sees him just the same as he sees us, sees you. The fear of God is an awesome thing, if you really think about it. And David knew it. Let me get back to David. David knew it. You know, in 2 Samuel, where one of those key things that happened in his life, in chapter 12, chapter 11, you can go home and read it. Some of you can go home, all of you can go home and read it, because it goes into real graphic detail of what really went on. Chapter 12, if you can go, Hannah. Chapter 12, you see that David's anger burned greatly against the man. And he said to Nathan, the man's Nathan, as the Lord lives, surely the man who has done this deserves to die. After all that was done and after all that was plotted and everything that was done. And Nathan, after this beautiful short story that he explains what it is, moves his heart, a sermon, right? He points it to him. That man is you. That man is you. We see that in that later on. We see that in that chapter. That man is you. You did this. He was so caught. And guess what place do you have at that time? Do you need to be afraid of God at that moment? Yeah? Do you need to forget God for a little bit? Do you need to be afraid of your position at that moment as a king? Yeah. You know, when we are caught in something, till we really are not. We continue doing it like nothing's happened. And that's the thing about us. You know, we as human race, it never is about us. It never is about us. It's about them. It's about them. Last year we saw one of the top Hollywood producers were caught in a lot of issues, you know. But he was also the product of, and a lot of celebrities pointed finger, this, we had a whole Me Too movement on that, right? But then a lot of people forget that this is a product of a communal behavior that you have and you continue to do. You continue to set that up. If you sell it that way, if you objectify what God has made holy, and if you have a product of that, we fail to point the finger at ourselves. It's always about others. I know these are places God will take us. And I know most of us have gone through these places. And David did. David did. Multiple times he did. And he came to those moments. After this, he rushed and he wrote Psalms 51, right? And we see some of the places he says, Lord, you do not want sacrifice. Because it says, we were just listening from Pastor about obedience better than sacrifice. He said, God, I know that you don't want my sacrifice. It says in 51 verse 16, or I would have given it to you, the best sacrifice. He said, God, you don't want this. You're not pleased with burnt offering. The sacrifice that is pleasing to God is a broken spirit. David comes to realize what the value of mercy is. Now let's go back and think about that. By faithfulness and truth, or by mercy and justice, you find atonement. We find atonement. We've been set free from that. You see, David didn't stay there, nor did Moses. If you look at Moses' life, the guy killed someone, right? Before he started in Exodus, the second chapter starts with murder. You see, he looked this way and that way. Don't we do this? I know I've done it. I look this way and that way. When no one's seeing, I do what I have to do. Right? It says when he looked this way and that way, when he saw no one around, he just killed a guy and put him under the mud. When no one is around, when no one is around, when no one is around, he did what he had to do. But you think God was around? Yeah. I bet you he was. His eyes on him, looking at Moses. I've not designed you for this. You and me will have a conversation. We'll have it later. But guess what? Since I'm not like you, I'm a just God. I'm going to show you this intense love that you have not seen in your life. I'm going to let you experience what mercy and justice means. We know what happened after that. If you go to Exodus chapter 2, what's the verse here? If you go to Exodus chapter 2, he just ran from there, right? It goes, Moses became so afraid. In 2 verse 14, it says, he became so afraid and thought, what I did is certainly known. I know that verse is not up there. If you have your Bible and your devices, you can look at it. I'm afraid now. I'm running. See, now that's fear. That's real legitimate fear. You're afraid of God, and you're also afraid of people. Every reason to be. God brings him to a place, deals with him one-on-one, right? And he's still afraid. He's still afraid. Now at this time, he's not afraid of what he did still bears on him. But God reinstates him. That burning bush experience changes his life completely. He comes to realize that the God that he was scared of, the God that he thought that I need to run and be afraid of, is actually a loving, kind, and a love that he's not ever experienced from anyone. Because his own were about to give up on him, right? 2 other guys said, okay, are you going to kill me too? So he just ran, even his own. Man, I was just trying to protect you. Even his own. God shows him what mercy and justice really means. Moses, you've been reinstated. I'm going to take care of your hands first. That hand that killed someone, I'm going to cleanse it. You're going to be new. You're going to go. You're going to not stand on this mountain alone, but you alone will come on the mount of God. And you will stand there. And we will have a conversation. In the thick, a place where no one, the verses, if you read, tears just roll down. You're like, God, how much can you use someone? The thick cloud, the smoke, the lightning, the thunder, you would think someone would be really afraid of because you're standing in the presence of living God. You know, they say, give him the natural fear of God. Anyone, right? But here is Moses in his presence because he is at a place of being awestruck by the living God. So you see, if we're not awestruck by the living God, no matter how much grace we've received, it means nothing. Because we repeat patterns in our life. We will. And these patterns will keep coming. Being awestruck. God, I know the depth of love upon my life. I know where I came from, and I realized, oh Lord, who, oh Lord, am I that you are mindful of me? And David writes, Lord, your thoughts, they outnumber the sand. The sand? Sand? A handful of it could be 1,000, 1,000,000, and that it outnumbers the sand. And then it says, if you go on to the next one, Anna, okay, next one to him. Next one. It says, okay, here it says, tremble in awe and do not sin. Commune with your own heart and be still. Now, this is one place in the Bible you really want to take that pause. You know the word Selah? Tremble in awe and do not sin. Commune with your own heart. Commune with your own heart on your bed and be still. If you're awestruck by the presence of God, you will stay there and you will think. That's the place. That's 1 Samuel where I love that verse where that Selah comes in. So appropriate, right? You want to just think, take a pause. Lord, you know who I am. You truly do. I'm just awestruck by the amount of faithfulness that you have upon my life. I don't deserve to be here, but you've brought me here, and I'm just awestruck by it. It keeps me awake. And when I am awake, the previous verse, Hannah, it says, on my bed, Song of Solomon, it says, on my bed, night after night, I sought him. I did not find him. I must arise now and go out in the city. I must seek him. Is there a feedback here? You see, someone who's the beloved. The beloved is seeking. We were talking about the beloved this morning. The beloved, when you're the beloved of God, seeking. Even when you're sleeping, getting up in the morning, you're seeking. You're constantly seeking because nothing tops that awesomeness. Nothing. Nothing. And that's when, if you go to the next, if it says, how precious are your thoughts to me, O God. So when I'm sleeping, I'm trembling in awe. But when I'm awake, I'm still with you. Not only when I'm asleep, when I'm awake, I'm still with you. God will give you grace. God will give me grace. What are we doing with that? You see, the word says, love casts out fear. Because there is no fear in love. There is no fear in love. Love casts out fear. Because fear involves punishment, it says. John says, the gospel, the apostle of love, he says, because there's fear that involves punishment. And those who fear is not perfected in love. The word says, those who fear is not perfected in love. So if we really, truly, and I say to myself, God, I've received so much. I've got so much. And this is why we come back Saturdays and Sundays and through the days and Mondays and all kinds of days. We do what we do to reach out because we have nothing else going on but be just awestruck by the love of God. So if there are tendencies, because there's evil in us, there are seeds, and those seeds, for it not to turn into big trees, let that awestruck moment rule in our lives. That awesomeness of God. Continually, day in and day out, while you're sleeping, you're getting up, while you're with people who you talk to, let the awesomeness of God continue to reign in our lives. Because I'll tell you, no matter what we hear, no matter what grace we received, it means nothing. In Hebrews, when you see those line of the warriors of faith in chapter 11, in 12, the first one, it says, now that you know these Hall of Famers, I'm just paraphrasing it, do not be ensnared, or it says entangled by sin, it's so easy to get entangled. But run this race with endurance. And how do you get that endurance? You just man up? You know what? That's the problem. Moses was manned up, but the problem is when there was no one seeing, he just killed a guy. It's not going to help you. What will help you is the fear of God. What will help me is the fear of God. Because, I just want to close with this short. I love fishing, and I was just thinking of that verse, and this came. And one of the things that is annoying about fishing, Jeff, you know about this. Now, you're a good fisherman, so I'm sure this doesn't happen to you, but it happens to me all the time. You go out on the pier now, go out on the pier and cast the line and do this and that. And every newbie, goes through this. And after a while, what happened? Your line gets entangled. Going back to that verse, it gets ensnared. After a while, what you have, I got it in my pocket here from last time. What you have is something like this. You see this? This is what you have. Now I'm going to give it to any one of you. Figure this out. Figure this out. So I do this. I know I've done it several times. My kids have seen me. I'm trying to do this and this, trying to untangle it. You see, the word says sin that gets so easily entangled. So easily entangled. We're not built for that. Let's run it with endurance, with fear of God, with that awesome feeling. With that awesome feeling. You know, later on in Hebrews says, you've not come to a mountain that cannot be touched, the blazing fire, the thunder, but you've come to a place, it says, those who heard begged. They were so afraid of that mountain, but you've come to a different mountain, a mountain where the Son of God casted out every fear and filled our lives with so much love. So much love. He took upon everything, right? When he was confronted, he was like, all those accusations, everything. So the whole payment of that, he took it and he said, it's finished. It's finished. So now we have a lot to be awestruck of, a lot to be really, really. And when we use the word fear, let's not again think of a God that makes you afraid. But let's think of someone who is so awesome. Because he is holding the other line of it. He'll cut it and he'll make it part of the past. And he'll start a new line on you. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to hold that line with you. You'll catch some fish, big and mighty. Yes, you will. You wouldn't be worried about the pinfish that you get off the pier that I have at times. You'll get some real Isla. You know, you get some real mackerel, the big ones. You see, because God will use your story. He'll use your brokenness just as he did. And he'll put you in the Hall of Fame. Let's bow our heads in prayer. I know while through this week, this is something that kept me awake too. And I pray that it does to you as well. We sing about his awesomeness. We say he's so good. But really, really, do we think how awesome he is? The word says he is a consuming fire. Punishment that waits. But then he's given us so much. For you know what? Punishment belongs to the outside, but what he does to his children is discipline. God, we thank you for your awesomeness. We are amazed at the extent of your love upon our lives, that you can turn, and you alone, O Lord, to you alone, just as David said, you alone, O Lord, I have sinned. To you alone, O Lord. And you alone can untangle this mess in my life, in our lives. Lord, I thank you for starting a new line, a new beginning, a new year, a new day where your loving kindness and your faithfulness and your justice and mercy prevails. And we are captured by that love. And we love you so much that we cannot think a moment without you. We cannot think to run away from your presence. Because we know when no one is seeing us, you're with us. Your presence is with us. And your presence is so strong in our lives. Because we're constantly reminded of your loving kindness. We thank you, Lord. We thank you, Jesus. In his precious name I pray.